I never ever thought that I was a leader. I just thought I was a farmer out there trying to get something done. And my idea is either follow me or lead me or get out of the way. And that's the way I worked. Everybody pretty well always knew where I stood. But now I lost my speech. Here it is. It's a long one. I want to thank the FFA Foundation, FFA. I also want to thank Dr. McCall. We've known him for some time. He was the superintendent of the school where my wife taught, and he encouraged her to go get her principal's license, and we wallered through that as a family. She was a principal, and I thank him the first of every month because that's when the check comes. And the people, when this, my wife told me in August, and I was recovering from knee replacement, and I was pretty high on Percocet, and it's a great drug. She told me that she was going to go through this nomination process, and she said she had to get 15 to 20 letters that would recommend me for this, and I said, you'll never find 20 people. But when the letters came in, I never read them until Don Thorne called and told Robbie that I had been nominated, or I had been accepted. And she gave me the packet. I went into the office and sat down and read them. And it was very humbling. And it was very appreciated. And after I read them, I put them back in the envelope and gave them back to her. And I said, I had no idea. I said, I never ever thought that I was doing what I was doing. All I was doing was trying to get a job done for the farmers and the wheat farmers. But there's people, you don't get this without having people behind you. And the Colorado Wheat Growers and the Colorado Administrative Committee backed me all the way, and we didn't always, they didn't always accept what I was trying to do, but I finally convinced them in the long run. Because I never give up. But let me introduce my family. I've got some grandkids here. Some couldn't come because they're in college, and I told them to stay there and do their job. But grandson Corey is here. Kelsey. Kelsey Brown. Tia Phillip, and then my kids, Lee and Mark, and Amy and Sherwin. Sherwin's one of my best friends in the world. And my mom is here. 92 years old and still lives by herself, takes care of her own business. She even brought her broken arm. And Josh and Lori. And Josh was very important in this part being able to be here. Because if it hadn't been for him, I left him at home to go to D.C. time and time again, and I remember Robbie's in school by Dr. McCall's advice, and we're trying to get farming done before we go to some summer leadership. Mom is home taking care of Josh and I. It's 3:30 in the morning, we're eating breakfast, and this is about the 5th or 6th day of that, coming home at 10 o'clock at night to eat supper. And Josh turned to me, and I think he was 14, 15, 16 years old, somewhere in there. He says, "It's a good thing I'm your son, because no hired man would put up with this." But we got it done, and then we got to the conference, and he got to go. I think we had a pretty good time. And then there's my wife, Robbie. We got married pretty young. I think I was 20 and she was 18. My dad was very disappointed because I had not finished college yet. And I said, "Don't worry, Dad. We're not going to have any kids. We're going to finish school 9 months, 4 days, and 45 minutes later we got another one." But we did. Well, then we got another one. I was 80, and then I decided, hey, I got to finish this college stuff because I can't afford this. We're going broke here. And we're not knowing what's causing it. So we did finish school, and my dad did get to see that. And you know, you go through a long period of life, and you don't think there's anything going on, but in the last few years, we've had some wonderful awards. Our farm was designated as a Centennial Farm in 2010. My grandfather come and homesteaded it. I live in the house that he built in 1927, and my parents remodeled it in 68. So we had that award in 2010. We had another fantabulous year. This year is my wife and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. You know, those young marriages never last. And they said that when we got married, you know, you're married forever. I just didn't know how long it was going to be. But I had a whole bunch of things. I've sat and thought about this for some time, and I was going to give you a little synopsis of how it is to testify in Washington, D.C., and I did a lot of that. And the one thing I did talk to Corey Gardner about it this evening in a brief conversation, but I found that it was a lot easier to testify when the committee had a bill that you supported. If you was against that bill, that wasn't a good time. And you know, you can't say anything back, no matter how bad they talk to you. You really can't answer them. You can't retaliate against them, because then it just makes it worse. But I testified before Henry Waxman, and that was a devastating day. Let me just tell you how this went. Henry Waxman he had a bill on food safety, and I was chosen to do the testimony, and I think that I represented 26 or 36 commodity ag groups in D.C. Well, I didn't know that there was people had sent a letter to him opposing his bill. And they had me a lawyer to help me. Well, he had a cold, and I mean, he was coughing and sneezing and blowing his nose and carrying on, and Waxman was beating him up, and I said, "Just be quiet, I'll take care of this." Well, 3 hours later, we'd finally taken care of it, and the way that it ended is I said, you know, you in Congress decided that saccharin was carcinogenic. And I said, now you say it's okay. I said, you know, when you said that, it didn't make any difference to me. But all of a sudden, I've got a daughter with juvenile diabetes, and it did make an importance. And I said, now you say that it's okay. I said, if you're going to do this bill, get it right. And that's the way I entered. I had the last word. I had the last word with Senator Daschle, too. He was on. He decided he was going to have a bill on foods or on grain quality. And he had hired this guy to take care of that. And he and I just fought terribly. Well, I knew that I was going to get beat up in that one. And Senator Daschle, he did take his thumbs to me, and I just kept answering him and being as polite as I could. And then when it was over, he said, well, Mr. Wyckoff, wouldn't you like to have the United States to be the leading exporter in wheat? And I said, Senator Daschle, we are the leading exporter of wheat. I mean, there was probably 100 or 150 people there at that hearing, and they all just burst out laughing. And Daschle says, what did you say? So I told him, but he says, don't you mean clean wheat? But we had, I just had this is just a wonderful event, and I just thank all of the people who have supported me through the time, and you know, with the FFA and the Blue Coats,